This video here is going to give you the example of how to use the software for the stop motion animation project for your final assignment. So I'm going to get started here. It's going to be a relatively short video because I've only got 8% on my daughter's iPad here. So we're not going to take too long. But I just want to give you the basics and some of the overview of how the program works to hopefully equip you to help you have some success for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that down here. It just looks like this. I've already got it downloaded. Again, it's available for iOS and Android devices. This is my daughter's iPad, so it's a little bit larger device here, which is helpful for the video. When you load it up, it'll have, the first time it'll have some load screens, some introductory screens that you'll kind of go through. But this is what it looks like when you start your first project here. So you see I have a couple examples that I've kind of messed around with here. So I'll start from the beginning. I'm going to start a new movie here. I'll click the little plus symbol. And it comes over here, and then it gives me basically what the camera can see. Now, I have the iPad right now sitting on kind of a slick surface, which isn't great, but I have a case that's kind of rubbery, so it helps a little bit. It's being supported not by the hands, but actually this giant soft soap container, which is sort of a hot commodity these days, finding soap. But I have some. The reason I'm using it is because it'll prop it up, and it's heavy enough that it gives it a little bit of support. So I'm just kind of leaning it up against this here. Now, the reason I'm using this is because I'm just one person working on this project, this little demo here. If you have someone else to help you to hold the camera, that's great. But even if someone is helping you hold the camera, it's a little bit hard to keep it steady and maintain just kind of the stability of that. Now, I'm not looking for perfection here. Let me just give that caveat to you right now. There's probably going to be some play in your video with the camera moving just a little bit. And if there is, that's okay. Try to minimize that as much as you can. Having a tripod or some sort of a stable surface is going to help mitigate a lot of that. And that's what I'm going to try to do here to help us for this video. Okay, so I've got our objects in front of us here. And what I'm going to do is just a super, super simple example of transformation. We're going to have this little kid spoon here transform into this orange right here. Okay, so from this shape eventually to this shape here. And so it's going to be a physical transformation, and that will be the theme here. So when you are starting out, once you have this all sort of set up, I'm going to move some of these little toys out of the frame here. Not that it really matters, but just for sake of the demo here. Okay, so let's kind of position this thing kind of where we want it. And I'm going to go ahead and take my first picture here. So I'm just going to click the little red button. Right, and I've got my first picture that popped up down below. This area down in the bottom here where the pictures are going to start showing up is considered your timeline. And your timeline is essentially, it will have all the photos show up in that space. And when you play your video, it will give you the amount of time that the video is. Your goal is 45 seconds. That's the minimum. So you need to have at least 45 seconds worth of video based upon the amount of shots you've taken. Okay. Now, if we go over here, we can see there are a few things. If I click on this photo here, I have some options here. Excuse me, I hit the mic there. I can erase this photo. I can do some editing. Some of the stuff is going to be available in the free software, and some of it is not. You're not required by any means to buy the full software. I haven't. This is the demo version that I'm using here for you. So you're not required to buy this software. You're welcome to if you want, if you really like it and you want to use it and you want to unlock some of the extra features. Fabulous. Go for it. I encourage it. But I'm not, it's not a requirement. The key thing that I'm looking at here is the delete button here so that I can get rid of that. And that's going to be potentially a key thing you're going to be able to use if you are not satisfied with one of the shots that you've taken. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started again. When you delete, I've noticed this is like a little glitch in the program. When you delete an image and it's only one, it cannot reset and you have to go back and kind of start your video again. Once you do, it resets the camera. So that's just a little thing that it does. Okay, let's get started on this actual video. All right, so we've got our first picture here of the spoon. You'll notice over here in the left-hand side of the corner, there's this little kind of slider that I can move around. And that slider will make a little bit more sense about how it works now that we have our first photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it down a little bit. Maybe. There we go. This is called onion skinning. And this is a term specific to animations. So onion skinning is the idea that, like an onion has layers. You have layers of images that are being overlapped on top of each other with a slight amount of opacity change or transparency, where you can see previously ghosted kind of where the object was. Okay, so I'm going to kind of approximate that just as closely kind of as I can where that previous spoon is. And I can use this onion skinning, slide up and down. You can see just how transparent it is. The further down I bring it, the more opaque it is. That is the more, or the less transparent. The further up I take it, the more I can see that frame behind it. And this is a really helpful tool. Another thing you can notice is, do you see how the background, you see if you look in the very back, you see that little, that table that's back there with the little puzzle on it and some of the other things. You'll notice that there's a little bit of play. There's just a little bit of shift. What's most likely happened is that I have actually bumped my camera because it's not a perfect tripod. And so there's just a little bit of play that's taken place there. That's a great way, if you have a stable element in the background, to see how much has changed in your video. So you're looking for sort of the constant elements to help you kind of keep things in line. A tripod solves all that, but we are kind of just making use of what we have here. And I would expect the same for you as well. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take another picture here. Got it. All right, so now our spoon has morphed into this this really awful sculpted Play-Doh spoon that my kids have. And so we're going to go ahead and start and to just convert this thing into, its thing here. So we're going to just kind of morph it a little bit. Again, animation, or specifically stop motion, is all about micro adjustments. So just this little micro adjustment, I'm going to take another picture, okay? Now, because this iPad is being supported by my soap, which is more or less my tripod, it's allowing my hands to be free, and I can then go over here and manipulate this, which is super, super handy. So again, I just really, really encourage you to try either something like that, get a volunteer to give you a hand, and I'm just going to keep kind of molding this, making little adjustments to this as I'm starting to have it become the shape. Now, the smaller your adjustments are, the smaller there are the amount of increments in your adjustments, the smoother it will look. And so you'll kind of see that, and that is based off of how small those increments are, but also how many frames per second there are in your animation. Now, if you recall, we talked about what frames per second are. It's how many actual static frames there are each second of video taking place. Normal animation and film is around 24 to 30 frames per second. So that's a lot of frames. I mean, literally 24 images are flying past your eye in a second. It's kind of an amazing thing that's taking place here. And so you are limited to 3. And so because 3 is the minimum, you're going to see quite a bit more. It's going to feel a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think right now. What time is it? No excuse. It's not even 10 o'clock yet. It's going to feel choppier. That's the word. It's going to feel a little bit more choppy and maybe not as smooth. Now, you can work around that by adding more frames per second. If you want to, you can go up from 3 frames per second. You could go up to 4. You could go up to 5. But that adds more frames to your overall animation in order for you to get to the amount of time that you need. That is, again, so it's not a requirement to do that. It will make your work look better, but it will also increase the workload. And so it's really kind of, up to you how you want to navigate that. Okay, I'm just going to do another little adjustment here. And you can see, again, it's just so helpful, the onion skinning on, so I can see how things are adjusting here. I'm going to try to start to manipulate this. Now I'm going to actually increase the volume of this a little bit by starting to add a little bit of Play-Doh here, because the orange, if I look at it, is actually a little bit larger than this. Low battery, so I've got 5% to finish this video here, so I better get rolling here a little bit quicker. It's It's okay. You know, a lot of time your faculty needs time limits so that they know that they just need to be a little bit more concise, get that information told in a concise manner. Okay. Just a little bit more. We're going to just kind of finish this up here quick. So this is not necessarily going to be the best thing you've ever seen, but hopefully it is instructive and helpful to you. Just going to add a little bit more volume here. Again, I'm not going to go for perfection, but we're just going to try to get it kind of okay. Kind of okay. That's like, I just made up that phrase. Kind of okay. All right, I'm just going to put a little marker here. I'm going to put the spoon right here. I'm going to roll this ball up just a little bit. That spoon is going to sort of mark my location. Kind of get this little oblong kind of a thing. Get that in there. Get that shape really close by. It's not quite close enough. Let's just do that. Take a picture. And then we'll go ahead and just conclude this by having it become the orange here, like that. Okay. So you can see there's really only 16 images here. So this is awfully short. This thing is probably going to be, you know, only 3 or 4 seconds long. Okay, so now we can go back and we can hit play over here. We can kind of watch this thing evolve into an orange. There you go. So in terms of adjusting the frames per second, if you go over to this little gear here, you can see that it is automatically set the movie speed to 3 frames per second. Okay, so that is 6 seconds at 3 frames per second. If I adjust this to 5, I'm just going to kind of clarify this for a second here. You'll notice it plays faster because there is a quicker amount of frames being used per second, but it also shortens the video. You'll notice it was 6 seconds, excuse me, now it's 3 seconds. Okay, so that is where that change takes place. I'm going to go ahead and make this back to the default, which is 3 frames per second, which is what I want you to lean into first. Let's say we finished our video and we're satisfied with it. It looks great. It's exactly what we wanted. You hit this little arrow button to go back. And then this button in the upper left-hand corner that you click here. Okay, I didn't expect that. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Just forget what I just said. Haha. Okay, hit select in the upper right-hand corner. There we go. Now we're going to select the movie that we want, this stop-motion movie right here. Get a little check mark. This button up here now in the blue, it's the little box with the arrow above it. You'll recognize it, those of you who have iPhones and iPads. You click that, you're going to export that movie. And it's going to give you a few options, okay? You can airdrop this on the left side. If you have a Mac, you can just airdrop that to your desktop computer. You can go to YouTube. You could put that up on YouTube and download it from there if you needed to. That's a few extra steps, though, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. If you have a Dropbox account, you could send it to that. You can also save that video to your device. And if we go here into the device and we go into the camera, we see here is the video down here that's playing. And so then you could potentially airdrop this or do what else you needed to from here as well, right? So we could send this to a nearby computer. So I have a few options here. Now, if you're on an Android, that's going to look a little differently. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what screen prompts that's going to give you, but I suspect you'll be able to save that directly to your device or to another computer as well. So there should be options in there that you can use to allow you to complete your video. So we'll go back here to this video and we can watch this. Now at this point, if you wanted to add sound, you wanted to add audio, music, you could, I believe you can do that as well in this software, but unfortunately, you would probably have to unlock that through purchasing the software. Again, not a requirement, but it's availability for you to use, or you could take it into something like GarageBand. It's up to you. I encourage you to just explore a little bit and come up with your own ideas. I'm excited to see what you have done so far and what you're going to do. I've seen a few of your samples so far, which is great. So if you have any questions on this, just send me a note, send me an email. But other than that, I look forward to seeing what you come up with on the 4th. All right. Bye.